we had about $400,000 we had to identify in some fashion to reach that number. And either Dr. Mabel or I can speak more specifically to any of those reductions. I know we've discussed them in the past, but that is just kind of a quick summary of how we got to where we are now.
Any questions for Carl?
One comment here on the FY10 expenses through 5/17.
Oh, yes.
The first item, the numbers don't add up right. I don't know whether there's a glitch in the spreadsheet or but it has a revised budget of $23,075. I don't think that, maybe it does add up.
Well, let's talk through it. The 2307, let's use the example you're using, the top line, the school committee and the superintendent.
Maybe I didn't
yeah,
put the last number around the right way.
I just
noticed the minus sign.
Yeah, okay, so it does. And you might wonder, gee, why are we $18,000 in the hole on this line? And I think you'd remember that when this budget was voted by town meeting, we did not have in it a search process for a new superintendent. And so what we've done is I've encumbered money, which is shown under the FY09 committed. And as the committee knows, we have contracted with MASC to facilitate the search. So that's why that particular line is technically in the red based on the original appropriation.
That's okay. I found the minus sign.
Okay. No, I always appreciate that. I make mistakes sometimes.
Jerry?
Carl, just briefly, the audit that's done every year, where does that audit report go? Who's that sent to?
It's automatically sent to the Board of Selectmen and the school committee and the Department of Revenue.
The Department of Revenue gets it?
Yes.
And how long are they here? How expensive an audit is it?
I would guess, in terms of the time they physically spend time here and at town hall, and then the work at home back is, I'd say conservatively, 40 to 60 hours.
Really? Okay. And they do a recommendation as far as anything that any procedures, policies, or anything that we could improve upon?
They do. Those are called findings, of course. And you know, as the committee knows, we've been fortunate 2 successive years to have no findings. I haven't had the exit interview with them. I don't imagine there'll be anything major, if there is anything at all. They generally, in the exit interviews, tell you if there's any major findings that are coming your way. But they don't always tell me directly, because they technically, you see, don't report, even though I'm possibly the person responsible for it, they'll always report any issues directly to the town official.
So we're audited every year?
Yes, and it's pretty extensive, because they'll even pull out personnel files to make sure that you have to make sure new employees have to show a passport, 2 forms of identification. They make sure everything is there. They want to make sure you bid everything properly.
So they cover everything?
More than you'd imagine.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Carl on all the activities going on in the business office right now, or the budget number? I have one question, Carl. What number are we voting on tonight? The town appropriation or the total number? Because that ARA grant is coming to us from the state, correct?
Yes.
So are we voting on the 23,269,572 budget?
No, sir. I think our history has always been to specifically vote on the amount that the town is appropriating for our purposes. Okay. Remember, there are other ARA grants that are shown. Right. And the reason I did show that is because that was part of the last minute computation.
Right, the state changed, the state is now, they reduced our Chapter 70 for fiscal 2011, but then they added in this ARA money to compensate for what they cut out of Chapter 70, correct?
And I even think that we haven't even seen the end of this. I think the Senate Ways and Means on Friday are in the midst of deliberating or about to deliberate, and then they have to go to conference committee. The expectation is that our local aid will be similar to what we're showing, but until the general court votes, you never really know for sure. I wouldn't be surprised if before town meeting there isn't another small adjustment. I still think it's appropriate, though, for the school committee to vote an official number.
For the town appropriation only?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion then for town meeting appropriation of $23,143,886 at town meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Venezia, seconded by Mrs. Ericetti. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Unanimous.
And I should have mentioned one more thing, Mr. Webster. This was a May 6th report, as you can see at the top. Since that time, we did open the bids for bus transportation for next year. And I had estimated the additional costs for bus transportation to be somewhere in the $50,000 range. And to our collective shock and relief, the new 3-year contract is going to be almost identical to what our present costs are. There was a fair amount of competition in the marketplace for our transportation. North Suburban does have the lowest bid, so it appears they'll be continuing to be our provider. And in discussions, Dr. Manville knew we had a $50,000 available funds, and what we're recommending is, given the fact we have bottom line capability, the committee had stated that in an earlier version of this, they were hoping that we would not include professional development as one of the cuts.
Right.
Remember, there was a $46,000 professional development reduction here. So what we've done hasn't changed the bottom line. What we've done is really reallocated the money.
So that money will go to professional development now? Most of it, or?
Well, the $48,000 that we cut, we put back in.
Right.
But if you look at where it says retiree attrition, it went up to 129. We were able to take, part of the 48 was the reduced the system-wide media, and that 50 will go back and bring that down to where it's supposed to be.
Retire attrition.
Yeah, so essentially we're taking money we didn't spend this year, just pay for next year's professional
Because I had spoken to Carl about that, and I think the 129,000 savings in retire attrition was extremely optimistic. So
Sure, yeah.
I think if we get it back down to around 79, 80,000, we should be able.
It'll be where it should be.
Right. Okay. We want,
If we can do the next 2 or 3 things really
Okay.
quickly if you want.
all right, Dr. Manville, the PPS director search?
Yeah, I just want to let you
And the
know
little school principal, you know,
that the 2 searches we have, we started the semifinalist interviews for the PPS director today. We're going to interview today, tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday. We only have 1 interview on Thursday. We will pick 3 finalists to go forward, and Ms. Willis and I will interview them next Wednesday at 1 o'clock, 1, 2, and 3 in the afternoon. So by next Thursday, we should know who we're going to offer the job to. As far as the little school principal search is concerned, Sean Colleen and I did a paper search, for lack of a better way to put it, and we cut down to, we have 15 strong applicants. The search committee is going to come in and go through those 15 and then pick anywhere from 8 to 10 semifinalists to be interviewed. And we should have, and again, Kathleen is going to be involved in this in the finalist stage, and we should have the little school principal named by the 17th of June.
Great. Oh.
We need 3 signatures.
Any questions on the PPS director search or little school principal search? It seems like they both moving along very well.
Moving along very well.
All right, folks, almost ready? Ready? Okay. So as I mentioned about 10 minutes ago, we're very excited to have the Secondary School Building Committee here tonight. They'll be presenting at town meeting on June 7th, and I asked Dr. Manville to have them come in and preview their slideshow so the school committee would be 100% on board with what's being presented, and we'll be able to answer any questions. So I'll turn it over right now to Chuck Carucci, Chairman of the SSBC.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you can see, we got our projectors slated. The only thing is we do have, so people understand where this project is going to happen. See, you got that? Just break me up. Just hold it up for a minute. Can't see it with that. Just so everybody understands where the layout of the project is going to be between the middle school and the high school, all right? And people at home, if they are watching, that's where we're working on. Steve, want to point it up?
So this is the high school, this is middle school, I guess we're in the library right here, and this is the slope between. And one of the options that was proposed before that we'll see after the feasibility study, if it's still feasible, is building in the middle. Some kind of structure here, either abutting this or abutting the middle school, and being able to work in this area. And one of the advantages of working in between the two is you'll be able to house students both in the high school and the middle school during construction, which saves a lot of displacement costs and disruption.
Okay, all right, just so everybody understands kind of the general area that we're working at. And Greg Doble and Janine Imbriano are going to present the presentation that we have.
We good? Can everybody hear okay? Great. Well, thanks for having us over. This is an update from the Secondary Schools Building Committee, as Chuck said. And who are we? We reconvened in February of 2005 to address the changing needs of the high school and the middle school. And the Building Committee is comprised of, it's actually larger than that. There's 11 voting members, and then there's also associate members, as well as members from the school committee and town officials. So it's larger than that number there. Just a brief bit about how the old way schools were funded and the new way. Under the old way, towns would basically put together their package of what we wanted for a school, and then you would go through and fund the buildings, and then you'd submit to the state hoping for reimbursement. You had an unknown percentage, and it was always paid at the end of construction. The new way, the MSBA, the Massachusetts School Building Authority, established a totally new process. The reimbursement rate is known ahead of time, and it's a pay-as-you-go state reimbursement. There's some mandatory steps that we have to follow according to the new MSBA rules, and these are them highlighted right here. First, you have to submit what's called a statement of interest, and this is for any state building project that you want reimbursement from the state on. This is what you need to follow. So the first step is to submit a statement of interest to the MSBA, which we've done. That's why there's a check mark to the left. Then the MSBA selects you to move into the next stage, and they select about 15 to 20 projects a year, and there's existing 225 project submissions from the state of Massachusetts that are looking for a building project, and they do accept about 15 to 20 a year. Then the next step is to determine the cost of the feasibility and schematic design stage, which is the next stage that you have to enter, and we've done that. Then the town has to approve that next stage. Once the town approves that next stage, then we'll hire an owner's project manager and the design team, which is made up of the architectural firm, engineers, and project designers. And then at the conclusion of this next stage, we will know what the project is going to be. Right now, we don't know what the project is going to be, so we need this next stage, according to the state, to find that out. And at that point, the town is going to have 120 days to vote that project up or down. Little history: the high school was built in 1957, and the middle school was built in 1963. The buildings have served us well, but we're at a point where we have to address condition and age. So what did we do? In 2006, our group, the Secondary Schools Building Committee, we hired architects and engineers to inspect all the existing buildings and review both our facilities and our educational needs according to the school committee of those buildings. And then what did they find out? Basically, the original high school was designed for 560 students, and there's currently 732 students. We're obviously operating over capacity. Another example is we've got 18 modulars between the two schools, and modulars cost about $100,000 each when you include the site work, and they have a life expectancy of about 10 years. They also found out that our buildings are outdated and tired. They also found out that our building systems are past their useful life. Both the boilers, the electrical, the heating, the HVAC. There's some examples here. They also found multiple code and ADA accessibility violations exist.